Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our May onX Fish 101 Masterclass. We'll get rolling in just a minute or two here. We want to give everybody some time to get logged in and get situated. So, just a couple of housekeeping items while we wait. Your audio and video are turned off, so we can't see or hear you. So, no worries if you have noise in the background or anything like that. If you do have any questions you'd like us to address during the class, please use that Q&A feature, which should be along the bottom of your screen. We have a member of our customer support team answering those questions, and we'll also try to answer a few of those live as well. The chat is also there. That chat box is a good spot just to let us know who you are, where you're tuning in from, things like that. Not a great place for questions just because they tend to get lost in there more easily. This class is being recorded, so you can watch it later. We'll send an email to everybody. Tomorrow evening, you'll get an email with the YouTube link so that you can watch it. If you need to duck out early and want to go back and watch the portion you missed or anything like that, you'll have that. And we are doing a giveaway at the end of the class. We're going to give away some of these onX Hunt hats that you see me wearing. So we're giving away 10 of those bad boys. But you do have to be present towards the end of the class for that giveaway link to get entered. And so with that, I think some introductions are in order. My name's Jack Headland, work on the marketing side here at onX Fish and onX Hunt. And I am coming to you from our Missoula, Montana office. Over in Minnesota is Joel Nelson, our local fishing guru, I suppose. Joel, what's going on? You got a plan in place for the weekend for opener?
I have multiple potential plans, but like any good Minnesotan, I'm gonna play it down the middle, and we're gonna see what pans out here, right? We're gonna exercise our options as they become optionable, let's say, or actionable.
Sounds good. Well, here's our agenda for the evening. We're going to take you through kind of nuts and bolts of the onX Fish app, take you through all of the kind of pertinent information that you need to know, whether you're in Minnesota and you're planning out your opening weekend, or whether you're in Wisconsin or Michigan. I think your seasons are probably already open. Joel can correct me if I'm wrong. I know Wisconsin opened last weekend.
And Michigan is open as well.
Awesome. So we'll go through, the lake finder, the fisheries data. We'll run you through some of the different tools within the app. We'll go over some of Joel's, secret fishing spots where all those 10-pound walleyes are. And just kidding on that. But hopefully you'll leave this class with a better knowledge of how to use the app and ready to go off to the lake this weekend. So with that, Joel, I will turn it over to you.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen here. So just give me a little bit to get my wits together here. First off, thanks so much, everybody, for joining. We're really happy to have you here. Thanks for taking the time, knowing that the Minnesota opener for a lot of you is just up and coming. And for so many of you who have already been fishing, maybe you've had a chance to play with the app and you're looking to do a little bit more with it, maybe gain just a few more pieces of knowledge and better ways to use it. And that's where we're so excited to talk to you. Really, if you've been using it before, you haven't yet, you'll understand that onX Fish represents your best opportunity to find new lakes and really help you get the confidence to go there. It's one of these things where maybe we aren't in tune with all the information that's out there. Maybe we're unsure as to where the landing is, or we don't know what lake to fish because we're not sure what's in it. That's what onX Fish solves very, very well for people currently in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. So if you'll stick with me here, we're going to go through a lot of different examples of ways to find new lakes. And I talked about find new lakes at the outset, primarily because that's what helps make you a better angler. For all the different media work, companies I've worked for in the fishing industry, everything I've done has pointed towards the real limiting factor for many anglers being getting out to new water. Bites dry up. Everything from aquatic invasive species to predator prey relationships, things change. Lakes are dynamic. The bite comes and it goes. The anglers that I know that are the best anglers are ones that always have an ace in the hole, a trick up their sleeve. And so often that's just a plan B. And we're here to help give you the best plan B optionality possible. That's why I'm still kind of cruising around and looking at lakes for the area that I plan to be somewhere up near Park Rapids or Nevis, Minnesota this Saturday morning when I head out and do some fishing. So let's dig in just a little bit. But before we do, I want to cover some commonly asked questions. Um, we get a number of questions related to, and maybe even answered in the kind of the pre-registration questionnaire, questions about Android. And the answer to the Android question is, do you have Android? Yes, we don't. I'm sorry, no, we don't have it yet. Yes, we are working on it. So Android is up and coming, but we don't have a timeline for you yet on that. So please be patient with us. We want to serve all of the Android users out there. And hey, I've got an Android phone too, even with a fancy walleye case there, if you can see it. So Android, we haven't forgotten about you. Another question we get is contours. Will we have HD contours? Do we have HD contours? What is the contours situation? Currently, we have 5 and 10-foot contours provided by all of the Department of Natural Resources. We're looking to always expand our contour coverage. That's not something we have a timeline for either, but rest assured, if you've never been to these lakes, if these are brand new options for you, opportunities, the contours we have will help get you started. And we've got a lot more to love within the app once we start talking about the fisheries data too. So we'll get into that in a little bit. One other common question we got is, I saw somebody up near Bemidji asked, will there be more lakes in my area added? And the answer to that is heavily dependent on the Department of Natural Resources. It's important to note that all of our data are not gathered by people on cell phones or somebody chirping in via social media and saying, I caught a goldfish here. This is real survey data from the Department of Natural Resources. These are licensed fisheries biologists that are sampling these lakes as part of population surveys and estimates. So you can trust these data. They're real, they're verified, they're recorded scientifically, and that helps us give you the confidence that when it says there's a 10-pound walleye that's been sampled in that lake, that 10-pound walleye is still there unless somebody else has pulled it out. So definitely leaning into the fisheries data is going to be a big part of the presentation moving forward. So with some of that taken care of, let's dive into the app. So if you're brand new here, you're just getting logged in, you're kind of figuring things out, I'll be sharing with you things on the web map version. You can go to onxfish.com, type that into any browser, get your login situation kind of figured out. Obviously, you have to register and sign up for the app now. And in the web version, like we're showing you here, you're going to get a full widescreen approach. I've got it up on my desktop monitor here. But of course, you can pull it up in the app on your cell phone, iOS, Apple, for those of you that are up out there on the app. So I'll be showing you the web version, like I said, and I'll also be calling out differences from the web map version from the app version so you guys can keep it straight. First thing I'll have you do is look to the upper left in the web map version, or in the lower left, if you're on the app, to a little button with waves called Lake Finder. I'm zoomed in here just to kind of the prairie forest border near Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. If I click on Lake Finder, a number of options comes up. So this is great if you're maybe vacationing in an area. Maybe you've got a big summer vacation coming up. Maybe it is walleye opener coming up for you, and you know that you're going to be in this area. Lake Finder offers you some really great suggestions based on common grouped kind of specifications, like abundant walleye. Here's a couple different options for abundant walleye in this area. You can click See All and get a whole bunch of recommendations on lakes with abundant walleyes. Or you'll see abundant bluegill or crappie, trophy walleye. As I scroll down, you can see a number of recommendations. And for each lake, you see a number of other things: max depth, the size and acreage, when it was last surveyed. If it has a little trophy emblem here or badge, it signifies that a trophy walleye in this instance was caught, sampled, and recorded and kind of listed there on the lake card. Also, if there's special regulations related to any species, this app helps keep you on the right side of the law by always giving you those special regulations updated daily. This is updated just as often as the Minnesota DNR website is to give you the best information possible, again, to keep you legal when you're out there on the lake. You see, as I mouse over these lake options in Lake Finder, they kind of show up highlighted in red as I continue to mouse over them. So just giving you some idea of where those exist. Again, that's just a first start. That's a first pass. It's maybe just an exploration tool at the outset. That was Lake Finder. Again, upper left-hand corner in the web map version, lower left-hand corner in the app version. Okay, so we know that there's some options for just kind of finding a couple odds and ends, giving you some suggestions. But what if you want to drill down? If you're going to listen to nothing else through this entire presentation, listen to the next couple minutes because I'm going to detail what I think is one of the most powerful tools in the app, and certainly in my mind worth paying for it. Follow me back in time. If you were ever a person that sent into the DNR for individual lake surveys, you got these printed out things sent to your home, and you would pour through them on a lake by lake basis, all these tables of numbers, and there was really no graphs and charts. It was just digesting spreadsheet after spreadsheet. And then fast forward in time, maybe 15, 20 years ago, when the Lake Finder DNR website came out, and you could see some of these data by clicking again, lake to lake. You'd click on a lake, you'd look at all the tables, and you try to understand the population just based on tabular statistics. Now, with onX Fish, through the filters option, again, filters, you're able to do this quickly for multiple species and find not just your target species, but find them in the sizes that you're looking to catch. So if you follow along with me, if you see this little button called All, that's a good first start. It's the filter button. Click All. And if you're looking in the app, that will also be towards the top. And you'll be introduced to kind of this filters card. As I click on these different options, I realize that first and foremost, I have to decide a species. So, hey, it's just about walleye opener in Minnesota. As soon as I click on walleye, you see just a pile of red dots populate on the lake. These are every lake that the DNR has sampled that contain walleyes. So an abundance of options. Maybe let's drill down a little bit further. For those of you that are free users, you will not have access to these premium filters, and there's a lot of power there. So it may be worth it to you to upgrade or at least try a 7-day trial and see what these mean to you for potential purchase of the app. Trophy potential, high abundance, and keeper potential. A lot of power buried within there. I'm guessing a lot of you that are heading out for the Minnesota Walleye Open are going to be looking for a few keepers for the pan. Heck, it's probably been a little while since you've had a fresh walleye dinner. I can immediately click on this keeper potential lake, and it will identify lakes that have both walleye in them, but in that 15 to 19-inch size range that we so often love to catch, keep and clean for a meal in the pan. But what if we're pig hunting? What if we're looking for only bigs over the weekend? Hey, we can click on trophy potential lakes and identify lakes where walleyes over 28 inches have been surveyed. And it's just a great tool to get an understanding of where big fish swim primarily. But we can also look at multiple species or multiple type scenarios where we're looking for both trophy and keeper potential. And you see a couple that'll show up there. What if we're just interested in catching a bunch of walleyes for a brag board? We want to tell our buddies that we've got 36 walleyes, Saturday morning. Here's an option that just shows lakes that have a high abundance of walleyes of all shapes and sizes. So super interesting. Again, the filters tool allows us a ton of both flexibility, but also ability to drill down, quickly find and filter. I'm not clicking on lake after lake. I'm not sifting through tabular reports. I'm not trying to compare sheets of paper or even computer screens of just raw data. I'm literally able to, with a few clicks, find exactly what I need in the size and species that I'm looking to catch. All right. What about a plan B? What about some crappie lakes? Hey, crappies, it's a great time of year to capture crappies in the shallows. A lot of them are spawning in different locations, except the extreme northern portions of the ice belt. Maybe we're just interested in lakes that have got some keeper potential crappies too. And what if we were interested in comparing those lakes that were also similar for us that had maybe both walleyes and crappies? You can see some of those lakes populate as well. So This is just a fun way, the filters tool. Again, I'll show you how to get there. If you highlight and click all in the upper center portion of the app or in the web map, it will show you this filters portion of the program. As you drill down and dig down into some of these details, you can see you can also specify boat launch type, trailer accessible, surface type, paved if you've got a great big fiberglass boat. Maybe you're interested to make sure that there's restrooms at the landing, right? You've got a family with, and you want to make sure everybody's comfortable and happy. Or maybe it's a blow day and we want to fish lakes that are primarily smaller. There's big winds, and we just know it's going to be uncomfortable on big 1,000-acre lakes, 800-acre lakes or larger. There's ways to filter down on a number of different features for you besides just the size of the fish you want to catch and the type. So a lot of options. And hey, let's say we've got a bunch of these clicked and it's getting all kind of out of hand and we're not sure exactly what we were looking for. At any point, you can bail out by hitting reset, and that will completely clear the queue. And you can close this out and start perusing. All right, so we've spent a fair amount of time on filters. Again, a really powerful portion of the app. Next, let's tackle the individual lakes. So let's say I went ahead and I was looking for Keeper Walleye Lake. And I identified one right here. Let's say it's Upper Cormorant for whatever reason. We look here, and as soon as we click on the lake, a couple things happen. I click in the center of the lake, and a bunch of a bunch of different lines show up that kind of delineate the lake size for me. And you see immediately this filtered species that I had pops up. The walleye does. It's in high abundance. But we can also look at all species by just clicking on species here. And in each one of those species cards, you can click on it and get a ton of information. So in this instance, I click on Upper Cormorant. I look at 2022. That's when the survey was. I look at the catch per unit effort, CPUE. That's a big term, catch per unit effort. And we see that it's high. As you might have imagined, a high CPUE is good. It's green. High is good, low is less good. It doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, but you can see that these are gill net catch fish, caught fish from the year 2022. Catch per unit effort means the amount of fish caught per unit effort. So duration that the net was set, length of net, a number of different ways we can track units. But either way, a very high number of walleyes caught over low effort means a high CPUE. Again, high is good, low is less good. So right off the bat, we see that there's a high CPUE here. That bodes well for an angler. But we can also look back at the population dynamics over time and see that for the most part, this lake has always had a strong mix of sizes and numbers of fish. As we kind of look on these individual ones and mouse over, you can see the number of fish caught in each of these surveys. And again, for the recent time period, a large portion of these fish in this population are between 15 and 19 inches, which is why it gets its keeper potential designation. Okay, so if you're a little lost and that doesn't make a lot of sense, again, I'll take you back through how to get there. We're going to just click on a different lake for an example. I click on the center of the lake. I click on the species that we're interested in, and immediately I get a ton of fisheries information, and I see that the CPUE here on Big Cormorant is even higher. So obviously another really great walleye lake to check out, with a lot of fish, even some bigger fish kind of mixed in. So very cool to see. But it's not just walleyes. Like I said, if you look at other fish species, we can see that there's some nice bluegills in this lake with a reasonable keeper potential here. Maybe that's a good plan B strategy. Very high abundance bluegill lake. And again, we can go back in time to see how those different surveys took hold and how they look there. The other thing you're going to see when you click on these lakes is all of the fishing regulations. If there's any special regs, that will be called out immediately for you. I'm going to find a lake where that exists. Big Pine was one of them. You see right away it says special regulations, and then I click see more, and immediately those special regs are listed for you for that immediate lake. So a really nice option, again, to always know that you're staying on top of those regs and you're doing the right thing for the fishery and the fish. Okay, other things in here. You see all the access amenities. It notes trailer parking. There's also a carry-in boat launch here, but there's a trailer accessible one. There is a toilet present. The individual coordinates are listed there. Weather we'll get to a little bit, but you can see average clarity is listed. That may be interesting to you. I like that kind of water clarity listing. That's not too clear, and it may bode well for a reasonable day bite too. So something to keep an eye on as you're clicking on these individual lakes and getting more and more information. If you're frustrated that only one filtered species keeps showing up, you can always go back, click off your filters or hit reset. And then when you click on the lake, you'll see all of the fish species show up in the first click. So if that bothers you, you can always take care of it that way. Now, let's say we fall in love with one of these lakes and we really want to make sure that this is one in our back pocket at all times. You can click this little button up here as part of the lake card. It's just a little favorites app or a save app or a save portion of the app that you can make sure that this lake will always be saved for you under My Content. Again, if you go to My Content, you can see that under your, under your saved content, you'll have, I've got 13 lakes saved. I'm not going to show you which ones. But there you go. Under My Content saved, you'll see the number of lakes that you kind of create here with this little ribbon or this little label here are always going to be with you, so you're not going to forget them, which is important because there's a lot of lakes in these places and it starts to get confusing trying to keep it all together and remember everything. So, in summary, I want you to make sure that we know everything we need to know about the filters. That's your first approach. That's the first silver bullet, magic bullet approach to finding new lakes that's really important. And then I want to make sure that you know that once you've settled on or narrowed down some of these lakes, you can click on the individual lake and get a whole bunch of information based on the specific species. And you can go back in time, look at multiple year classes moving through over the different surveys, look at the CPUE, understand its abundance. One thing I didn't mention is this little blue bar. The way that they're calculating how it compares, how this CPUE number compares, is they're comparing it to other similar lakes in its class. So the blue bar is the average range for similar lakes. So when a lake says it's above average for bluegill and CPUE, this means that it's one of the better ones when compared to similar lakes statewide. So kind of a neat thing to observe. And there is just piles and piles of data here, folks. Tons of things to look at and lots of different ways to slice and dice the way you're going to put together everything from a fishing opener plan to your family vacation. So I think with that, I might take a little bit of a pause, but not before I show you guys just one more cool thing in the app. If you look in some of these lakes, you'll see a number of different lakes that have little white dots on them. Leech is one of them. So if I click on one of these white dots, some of the lakes in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan have area insights. This is a great tool. Again, if you're brand new to some of these areas, it offers recommended species for these areas that you click on, as well as some basic presentation information and seasonal information. This mid-lake reef, the onX reef made up of submarine island, holds fish year round, walleyes are caught trolling perch-colored crankbaits, gives you some ideas of what to do, what to fish with, what times of year to target specific species. And again, all of these fishing hotspots lakes have these little white points that are numbered, but then they also have some buoys, some emergent vegetation, submergent vegetation, kind of denotations and symbology here that helps you just kind of figure out the lake and some basic navigation to it. I'll show you a little bit later where you can find a legend to what all of these individual things mean on the map. But again, this is just to help you get, I guess, acquainted to an area that you otherwise might not know much about. So couple different things for you there to chew on. I'm going to cast it back over to Jack, and he's going to take you through a couple different options uh, based on the app itself. So handing it over to you, Jack.
Yeah, give me 1 second here. I'm going to pull the app up on my phone. Zoom is taking its time. I might ask if you can stop sharing, Joel. Might be helpful. There we go. There we are. So I'm in the onX Fish app on my iPhone right now. So if you're watching us on a computer and you have an iPhone handy and you can pull the app up, I highly encourage that. It's a great way to learn. So we're going to talk about a couple of the different kind of tools within the app. Now, if you've used other onX apps before, onX Hunt, onX Off-Road, onX Backcountry, this will be familiar to you. All of these things I'm talking about here is pretty much a one-for-one crossover with the other apps. So we're going to start off with talking about offline maps. So offline maps are used when you're going to be fishing in an area that doesn't have any cell service or maybe doesn't have great cell service. Offline maps are how you're still able to see your location on the map. You're able to see, the terrain of the surrounding land and of the lakes and the contours and mark waypoints and all of those things. So I'm just going to pick, we'll go up to the Iron Range here somewhere, just going to pick a random area. Let's say this is, I'm going to fish this Whiteface Reservoir, for example. I've never been there personally, but I bet there's fish there. So I'm going to tap on the offline maps button along the bottom of my screen. It's second from the left. And then I'm going to tap this green new map button. When I tap that, I'm going to be given a screen with a white box on it. And whatever's within that white box is what is going to be saved for offline use. You have a couple different options for your map detail level. And what that detail refers to is the imagery resolution, how crisp the satellite imagery is there. So if I'm going to go fish this reservoir and I know that's the only place I'm going to fish, I might use a high detail map because I don't need a big map. The lower detail you go, the bigger the map size. It just has to do with download size, right? The more imagery we save, the bigger the download. So I can move the map, I can zoom in a little bit, and I can only zoom out so far. That's the biggest high detail map I can save. So if I know I'm just going to be fishing this reservoir or one lake, that would be the offline map size I would choose personally. If, Joel was talking about, he doesn't quite know where he's going to be fishing this weekend. He's going to be maybe in the Park Rapids area. There's a lot of different options there. You might go to a medium detail map. Now that map size is quite a bit bigger. So I could move it around and I could save, a bunch of different lakes in there. Let me get to, we'll go around the Grand Rapids area here. I lived there once upon a time. A lot of different lake options up there. So I can save kind of that whole surrounding area where I might not know exactly where I'm going, but I've got a map saved so that I have that information handy. A low detail map lets me save, it's quite a large map, but it's much lower detail level. So the use case for these low detail maps is a little bit smaller, to be perfectly honest with you. I would kind of think of them as a backup where if you just say, hey, we might be driving a long ways or we might, we don't know where we're going to be at all, you could save some of these low detail maps. So then you have something. The imagery quality or resolution rather is not as high. The medium resolution and high resolutions are going to be probably much more useful for most folks. And the imagery resolution between high and medium is not that stark. It's not a huge difference. So you're not really handicapping yourself by going with a medium map. So again, this is great if, hey, we know where we're going, but winds pick up in the morning and we get pushed off, in Grand Rapids, Lake Pokegama is kind of the big lake there, and I don't have that big of a boat. We might get pushed off and, hey, we got to go somewhere else. We still want to fish. We're not going to go, sit in the hotel room the rest of the day. Now we've got options. I can get on a smaller lake or something like that. Anyway, if I pull up this menu, I can name my map, something I highly recommend doing because once you have a bunch of maps saved, it's nice to be able to tell, at a glance where they are. I'm going to name this one Grand Rapids because it's in the Grand Rapids area. Name it whatever you want, whatever makes sense to you. If it's Mille Lacs Lake, if it's Grand Rapids, whatever makes sense for you and where you're at. And then I'm going to hit save. You can see that download is kicking off there. It should be done within a few seconds, really. And then any map I have saved is going to have a green box around it, just letting me know where I have those maps saved. And you can see if I want to save a bigger area, you can put these maps right next to each other so that you have, we sometimes call it like a grid pattern or quilting them together. I've heard people refer to it as, so that you can save a much bigger area. The only limit on how many maps you're able to save is how much storage space you have on your phone. onX doesn't limit you to 15 maps, 100 maps. I think I've seen some of our quality assurance folks have a couple hundred maps downloaded on their phone when they were just trying to like stress test this. So if you've got storage space on your phone, you're able to download additional maps. So you can see I've got a couple of maps saved here, Grand Rapids by Winnie and the Horseshoe Chain in central Minnesota. And those ones that I had saved previously say update available. What that means is some data has changed within that map, whether it's property ownership information has changed, whether it's, Joel will get into some of the different layers later, like motorized roads and trails and things like that, if something has changed. When we get new imagery, all sorts of things can change. That's not automatically reflected on your downloaded map. You do have to update those manually. So if I wanted to update my Horseshoe Chain map, all I'm going to do is tap on that green circle with the check mark. And that's going to kick off that download, and it's going to update that information that was out of date on that map. This isn't something you need to do all of the time. I probably update my maps once or twice a month. Usually it's not going to be mission critical information for me. It is, of course, nice to have the most up-to-date information, but don't feel like you're driving out for opener Saturday and it says update available. Don't feel like you've got to pull over and find a coffee shop or a McDonald's with Wi-Fi so that you can update. Go fishing, enjoy your weekend, update them when you have time, next time you're sitting at home or at work or something and have Wi-Fi, then run your updates. Couple things with offline maps. When you're in offline mode, which you can get to a couple different ways. One, I can tap this go offline button. That will put me into offline mode. You can also put your phone into airplane mode. Now, if you are worried about battery life, maybe this summer you're going to make a trip to the Boundary Waters, great use for offline maps going through the Boundary Waters, right? But you might not have the ability to charge your phone like you might, in your boat, or if you're going back to a cabin at night. If you put your phone into airplane mode, that's probably the single biggest thing you can do to extend your battery life. It's going to turn off all cell signal to the phone. And that is, in most cases, that's the biggest draw on your battery, that and your screen, right? So you put your phone into airplane mode, your offline maps are going to work. You're still able to see your location on the map because your location is provided or is found via GPS. So it's a different system. It doesn't come through like the cell towers. Works the same as like a Garmin GPS does, for example, that same type of system. You can still mark waypoints. You can track yourself. You can do just about everything you do online. You can do offline. And then you're also saving your battery. And hey, if somebody wants to know when you're going to be home, they're not going to be able to reach you because you're in airplane mode. So that could be good. That could be bad. For me, that's usually a good thing, right? I don't want to be bothered when I'm out there fishing. So that's one pro tip for you. If you're worried about battery life, put your phone into airplane mode. That's going to extend it quite a bit. All right, moving on from offline maps, let's talk about some different map tools. I'm just going to zoom in on Mille Lacs Lake here. And in the bottom, again, the bottom of my screen, second from the right, is your tools menu. The tools we're going to focus on mostly are waypoints. So there's a couple different ways to mark waypoints within the app. Lower left-hand corner, I can tap Add Waypoint, and that's just going to put a waypoint in the center of my map. That might not be where I want it to be. That's okay. I can zoom in a little bit and Man, I like sloppy joes. I'm going to put a waypoint on that fishing hotspot. That might be a spot I want to check out this weekend. Okay. So I've got the waypoint positioned, and to reposition it, all you have to do is tap on the map. I'm just tapping with one finger to get it where I want it to be. That looks pretty good. I would recommend, much like your offline maps, but probably even more critical, is to name your waypoints. That generic waypoint name probably isn't going to mean anything to you 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. If you mark a lot of waypoints like I do, it might not mean anything to you 6 minutes from now, right? So I'm just going to name this, if I could spell opening day, question mark, because I haven't been there yet. I might say, hey, maybe this is a spot we're going to check out. Maybe we're going to be fishing for walleyes. I'm going to select the walleye icon. If I expand this menu, we have all kinds of different icons in there. Some of them are fish species. Some of them are so you can denote, a hazard in the water, parking area. If you find Sasquatch out there, make sure to mark him. That's an option for you. Right now, I'm going to pick walleye. And then the next thing I recommend is to color code your waypoints. A lot of different ways you can color code it. Everybody's got a different system. Maybe you're a multi-species angler and you want to be able to quickly tell where your to tell your walleye spots from your smallmouth spots from your crappie spots. Pick a different color. I might say my walleye spots are green, my crappie spots are blue, and my smallmouth spots are white. Whatever color makes sense to you. That's one way to do it. You could also do it. I know some people will do it by year. And they will say, all right, all my spots in 2025 are going to be green. 2026 is going to be red. 2027 is going to be blue. So you can kind of track maybe how things changed over the years, maybe just where you fished and you say, oh man, I haven't fished this spot in 3 years. That was a good spot. Let's go back there this weekend. The only color coding system I would say is wrong is to not do anything. Once you start getting into this system, it becomes second nature and it becomes so much easier, especially once you have 100 waypoints, 200 waypoints plus. I really like the color coding to be able to tell at a glance what those waypoints are. So I'm going to leave this one green. I've got the walleye selected. I've got it renamed. I hit save. Now it's available to me there. And one question we get a lot is, can other people see my waypoints? And the answer is no. All of your information here is private. We're not, farming your data and sending it off to other people. Other users of the app can't log in and see, oh man, Jack's got, placed a waypoint here, or 50 people have marked walleye waypoints on this lake. None of that's, public information. We can't see it. Other people can't see it. Only you can see your waypoints unless you decide to share it with somebody. So you'll notice along the bottom of my screen, I've got this menu here where I can click to edit the waypoint. If I want to go back in and edit it, I can add it to a folder, or I can share it. So when I tap share, I'm going to be able to hit share with a link is the most common way you're going to share a waypoint. So if you are the, kind of the leader of your group, you have a bunch of friends, you're going out, you might share a bunch of waypoints with them to say, hey, here's what I'm thinking for this weekend. And you can text them a link. They'll get a message on their phone that says, Jack wants to share a waypoint with you. When they click on it, it will open up their onX Fish app and ask them if they want to add that waypoint to their map. They can either hit yes or no. If they hit yes, that waypoint will be added to their map. If they don't have onX Fish downloaded, that's okay. You can still text them that link. When they click on it, they will be prompted to download the app and start a free trial. They'll have to set up their account, just like you did when you first downloaded the app. Once they've created that, they'll be able to accept that share and view that waypoint on their map. So again, maybe you go out and you just crush the walleyes and you have a couple really good friends. You want to say, hey, go fishing here tomorrow. We got our limit of eaters or whatever. You can share that waypoint with them. The nice part about shared waypoints is they're yours. Other people can't then turn around and share them with their friends. It's kind of like if you've used, Google Documents or Google Sheets, it's read only. Other people can't edit them. They can't move them. They can't change any of the information. It's yours. You're the only one who can change it or can share it with people. I'm going to back out here. Another way to mark a waypoint, if I go back into my tools menu, is the mark my location button. So what that is going to do is that's going to place a waypoint where you are currently standing or sitting or whatever. I'm not going to hit it right now because I'm sitting at the onX headquarters in Missoula, Montana, and it's going to move my map over to Montana where we don't have lake data yet. But when you tap that, that's just going to put a waypoint right where you are. So I think of this more as an in the field tool. You're catching a whole bunch of fish and you want to be able to mark that spot for future reference. Just hit mark my location, then go in and edit it like I just showed you. Change the name, change the color, all that kind of good stuff. Once they're marked, they're the exact same waypoints. I've had that question before of, do the waypoints act differently if I've used mark my location or add waypoint? Once they're marked, they're exactly the same. All right, let's talk about the tracker now. So if I go to the bottom right corner of my map, the tracker is how you can track everywhere you have traveled. So whether you're, like my example from before, doing a fishing trip to the Boundary Waters, you want to track all of your travel, your portages, everywhere you've paddled, you can hit that tracker and that will start a breadcrumb trail everywhere that you have traveled. Maybe you're doing a whole bunch of trolling and you just kind of want to see exactly where you trolled that day or that morning. You can hit that tracker. It's going to leave a breadcrumb trail behind you. Again, if I hit start right now, it's going to bring us back to Montana. Not super useful on this masterclass. But you'll see your time, your distance, your speed. Once you're done, you can hit save. And then that track acts a lot like a waypoint does. You can go back and edit it. You can change the color of it. You can give it a name. You can put notes in there. You can share it with somebody. A lot of people during ice season were using Tracker to mark out ice roads or, where they drove, where the path was safe out to their ice house, things like that. Really nice to have if you just want to have it for future reference or, like I said, if you're doing a wilderness trip so that you don't get lost there. So check that one out as well. And I think for my portion, that's about it. Joel, anything that I missed or needed to go into deeper detail there?
I admittedly was peeking at some work emails, so I didn't catch every last bit, but did you check out driving directions? That nice feature that we've got for finding public accesses and getting there in style?
Let's talk about that. So here's an access I used to fish out of with my family. We never did too well on Mille Lacs, to be perfectly honest. So I'm not really hot spotting here. I think it's kind of hard to hotspot Mille Lacs Lake anyways. But here's the access right off 169. I'm sure Saturday morning cars will be parked all the way down the highway there, as I've seen before. But if I tap on the access, tap on that icon, it's going to give me information that Joel went over before. There's a dock there, trailer parking, toilet, paved launch, some of that information there, nearby other access points. If I go to the bottom of my map, I've got to scroll over a little bit, but if I click on driving directions, I can then choose to go to Apple Maps or Google Maps, whichever one you prefer. And if I click on Google Maps, this will be fun because I'm in Montana. Let's see how long it'll take me to get to Mille Lacs. Only about 17 hours. So it's going to take you over to Apple or Google Maps, and it's going to give you driving directions right to that access point, which is pretty slick, especially if you're going to a lake. Our kind of goal, at least partly, is to get folks to travel to new lakes and try new spots. If you've never been there before, now you've got driving directions to exactly where you need to go, turn by turn, all that good stuff. So that's kind of
That's awesome.
a not super talked about feature, but one that I think is pretty slick.
Yeah, I've talked to a number of folks that really love the app for that feature alone. Tony Roach, if you're familiar with him, very famous walleye angler, uses that one all the time as he is crisscrossing it across the North Country, looking to get from public access to public access and do it efficiently because The turn-by-turn directions are really slick for that.
Mhm.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to take back sharing
Yep.
and show you a few more things in the app itself. Hang on just a second. I want to make sure I've got the right screen to show off to you folks. There was a question that came up, and I'm glad it was asked. It was regarding some of the fisheries data and the designations for CPUE. You've seen the above average, you've seen maybe a couple of the below averages, you've even seen high abundance listed. But somebody was asking, what about outlier? What does outlier mean? Outlier is a true gem. When you found an outlier lake, you have found a lake that beats the pants off of just about anything else for the specific species indicated. So, Upper Red Lake, definitely being off the charts when it comes to abundance and CPUE. You can see the average range 0 to 16.93, and lakes of similar class kind of in that, oh, I'd say 7 to 15 range, 48.9, absolutely off the charts. So if you find an outlier lake, that's again where I was showing you to save those favorited lakes. Again, this is the location to do that, and go ahead and save that so that under my content saved lakes, it's always going to be there for you. You're never going to forget those little off the beaten path outlier lakes that you tend to come across. So yeah, kind of a little diamond in the rough for you there. Okay, just to summarize some of the things we've looked at, we talked about Lake Finder. We talked about using the filters to select species of interest, the size you want to catch, and all those other details, highlighting different lakes that have exactly what you're looking for. And then we talked about doing a deep dive by clicking on these individual lakes, going into the individual species cards, looking back through all of the different data, understanding CPUE. Hey, we even talked a little bit about some of those fishing hotspots, uh, some of those fishing hotspots areas and what we can find there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go back to that area that we were looking at before near Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. And I want to tackle another section of the app or web map for you. So if you look to the lower right-hand portion of your screen, you'll see a little sandwich. Layers, sheets of paper, however you want to call it. It's this small icon here, lower right in your app or in the web map. And when you click on it, it is the map layers portion of the web map or app. Again, I'm going to click on it for you here. Lower right, this little icon, click on it and get to map layers. Now, again, map layers, kind of a nice feature. We've got all kinds of options within it. The first one's that map legend I was promising you. So if you're trying to understand the difference between what submergent veg looks like, wetland or emergent vegetation, again, you're going to see that in some of the fishing hotspots, lakes, small little icons. Now you've got a good explanation of what those mean for you. So that's your basic map legend. Again, that's under layers, lower right-hand corner, map legend, to help you understand what it is you're looking at in a little better way. The other thing we can do with map layers is really customize the content, really make this something that's your own, help to solve certain problems, but also really go at it in a way that helps you make this visually appealing to you and easily understandable. The first thing you can do, if all of that aerial photography is kind of bothering to you, too many colors, too many splotches, you can simplify the map quite a bit by in map layers selecting just topo. It very clearly delineates the lakes. Obviously, deeper blue means deeper water, darker blue, deeper water, lighter blue, shallower water zones. So you just get a great idea of what the structure of the lake looks like, general depths, ideas for what they look like and how they lay out a little bit. Hybrid was the method that we kind of had displayed before. And you can also go straight aerial, which is interesting because if you're interested in some of the shallower zones, you can see a ton of information. Far better than you can even with high definition contours. Clear water, you can definitely see all these shallow bars, and as you would drive over them with your boat, or if you're out ice fishing, you get to see a level of detail that is literally extremely detailed. So very interesting to look at just the aerial or the aerial with topo lines, kind of up to you how you want to view those base map options. One key base map option that I really want to focus on for you, though, it's applicable during open water fishing, but even ice fishing too. And I'll show you an ice fishing example. We'll go back in time, recent satellite imagery for Upper Red Lake. If you look at this is for April 14th to the 28th. So yeah, ice was still kind of coming off here in the last couple of weeks. But if we go back in time, we can actually see all those ice roads that were on Upper Red Lake. And if we go back to the previous winter where there was more snow, you get a much more clearly defined idea. You can see it took a while for this to formulate, but you can actually clearly see where the ice roads are. And over time, actually saw very precisely where people were parking their fish houses, where most of the pressure was kind of showing up for Upper Red Lake. And more importantly, as an angler, the areas where there was a lot less pressure, like the north central, northwestern portion of the eastern third of Upper Red Lake, just past this big developed crack here. So something really neat to see from an ice perspective. If we go down to, let's say, like maybe Leech Lake or some of these areas, we can always look at it from a current perspective too and get a feel for maybe, oh, let's say when ice came off or what. Yeah, you can see in the image, some of the ice was still coming off in sheets on Leech Lake here. And you can also see kind of a veg download. And if we go back to last summer, you can look at spring versus summer, and you'll be able to do this here every 2 weeks. You'll look and see how kind of some of these areas start to develop out for veg. What grows up, you can see definitely some of that bog started growing forward, and you see it kind of advancing, and you see some of these shallows start to green up a little bit more, some floating veg mats, maybe lily pad fields as it progresses on through the summer and then eventually kind of dies off and works its way out of the fall into kind of that pre-winter or eventually ice up period. So kind of cool to see. Again, recent satellite imagery versus hybrid high quality. You can select your base map, but then recent satellite imagery allows you to select and look at things every 2 weeks. And again, you scroll through it in the bottom portion of the app or the bottom portion of the web map here as we're looking. Okay. One other thing to check out for you guys that is going to be really interesting to you. If you're looking to fish some remote lakes, middle of nowhere type stuff, maybe there's not great public accesses everywhere. But maybe we can find with our private land layers turned on creative ways to access water, which we would otherwise maybe consider private, like this Department of Forestry chunk. You see that, yeah, there's a private road that looks like it goes into here and there's no public access, but you could park along this road, get public access over to this area, maybe slip a kayak in, maybe check out some of these different lakes that otherwise don't have developed public accesses, but could be true gems in the backcountry and just kind of a neat exploration kind of way to look at layers. Alternatively, just like in Hunt, we're used to seeing all of this listed for individual landowners. You can click on it. It gives you some of the private landowner information, tax address, a few other things, if you wanted to ask for permission on some of these bodies of water to get onto. Again, that's the private lands layer. You can check it on or check it off. Active wildfires, air quality, smoke forecast, precip, which is really interesting to anglers out on the water. Obviously, if there's a big storm moving in, we'd love to know a little bit more about it, where it's tracking, all those good things. Motorized trails and snowmobile trails is a big one. So snowmobile trails here are detailed in purple. You can see kind of an example of that once you click on it. But again, this is a great way to figure out how to get to some of these backcountry lakes that they may have public accesses, but God knows if you could get to them in the winter. So seeing these snowmobile trails kind of laid out for you will help you not just navigate to new lakes, but make sure that you're actually on the trail Should you maybe be tempted to take a wrong turn or get turned around, aren't exactly sure where you are. So having that in the app for anglers, for snowmobilers, obviously a very important portion of the app. So I think with that, I have run through most of what I wanted to show everybody tonight. Again, just to summarize, we definitely came a long way here. We showed you a ton of different information. We started with Lake Finder. We headed to some of the filters, which again are probably one of the more powerful ways in which we can help to decide where we want to fish, find new lakes, get there with confidence. We tackled some of the individual lake card information by clicking on an individual lake, seeing what species were in them, and then kind of looking at the different surveys over time historically, understanding if it was a keeper potential lake, maybe some of the fish we would target there. Catch per unit effort, what that means. High is good, showing off some of the trophy potential where, hey, in this lake, there was a 14-inch crappie surveyed in 2014. Knowing that big fish swim in these waters is clearly the biggest and most important part of your tackle box or tools in your tackle box if you're a trophy hunter, because the constant truth remains you can't catch them where they ain't. You could have the best plan in the world, you could have incredible contours, you could have the most detailed mapping, but if a trophy walleye isn't swimming in the lake you're trying to catch it at, it doesn't matter how hard you fish it or where you fish it. So I think that wraps things up for me. Jack might have some housekeeping along with some freebies to give away. Everybody loves the free stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. Let me pull up my screen here one more time. That's the wrong one. Why do I always have trouble with this, Joel? I've only been doing this job for, 3, 4 years. You think I'd have it down by now? Let's try one more try. That's not it. Never mind. Okay. I have the giveaway link is in the chat. So folks can click on that to get entered. Couple notes on the giveaway link. If you're not able to click on it, some phones have a goofy like security thing where it doesn't let you open that link for some reason. You might have to copy and paste it into a browser, or take a screenshot of the screen or write it down or something. You have until midnight tonight to get entered. So if you're watching this class on the recording after May 7th, that giveaway link is no longer valid. But we do giveaways at just about every class, so you can pop into a future one. And speaking of that, if you do have questions beyond what we answered here, check out our website. Check out our help center. A lot of great information there. One thing we didn't mention, our customer support team, Joel and I are both biased. I think they're second to none. All US based folks. You can give us a call and talk to a live person in America on the phone, right? To get help with any questions you have. You can also send us an email. That email address is help@onxmaps.com. Any email that comes in, we try to answer it within 24 business hours. So if you send us an email tonight, you can expect a response from somebody on our customer support team tomorrow. So if you do have questions, utilize those resources. And then with that, I don't really have anything else, Joel. Any final words for the wise?
I think it's going to be a great opener for those of you fishing in Minnesota. No matter where you are, check out your water temps. If you're a walleye angler, that's going to pay off. Crappies as well, because there is a spawning, kind of a spawning gig and spawning bite going on down now in the southern portions of the ice belt. But you get a little bit north, those fish might be just staging in some of those areas. So fish slowly in cold water. This isn't summer. We're not hucking chatterbaits everywhere and hoping something slams it on every cast. You're going to fish a little more methodically, a little more slowly, but you'll be rewarded for the effort. And my number one tip for the opener, if the water is cold and it's uncomfortable to put your hands in the minnow bucket, you should be using minnows. That's the number one rule. When it sucks to use minnows, it's definitely worth it. So consider that when you're out there throwing at walleyes, crappies, just about anything else.
I thought we were going to get a safety lecture on cold water and wearing a life preserver with.
Well, that would be a good one too.
I can smell the peanut oil and cornmeal already. So
I
that's
love
one
it.
thing I miss about the Midwest. Montana is not fish fry culture like it is in the great state of Minnesota. So I need to get back there sometime. All right. Well, we've got the giveaway link in the chat, folks. One last chance to get entered there. And I guess with that, Joel, good luck this weekend. I hope to see some pictures of whatever you happen to catch and hope everybody has some luck. And we'll see you on the next one.
Good luck, everybody. Thank you.